So from that point, I didn't know who I was. From 19, that's when I found out the man I thought was my father, who's raised me, I thought was my father. I found out he wasn't my father at 19.
How does that conversation happen with a 19-year-old? That was before then. You had no idea.
I had no idea.
None at all whatsoever.
No, 18, 19, I had no idea he wasn't my.
So how did that happen? How did that conversation start?
It was very. It started when I look back at the time. It wasn't something that just happened one day.
Yeah.
It happened. It was slowly happening, without me even realizing it was happening. Because obviously, like, the first thing was, now this is where you're getting me going down into deep.
You got more family there if you went
This is the first time this is now going on record now. This is going to cost a lot of money. This is this is an exclusive. Right, yeah, 19 was, I think, a turning point in my young life, because at that age you're young, you don't know anything about life. I remember growing up, I think the first thing that struck me was obviously my surname was different to my brothers, because my surname was Anthony and they were George. And I remember going to school, and it was only when you got to sort of junior school, and then I had my brothers in infant school or whatever, and then I said, "Oh, this is my brother." And it's, "Well, how can he be your brother? His name is George and your name is Anthony." So there was a lot of times that people used to sort of say, "Oh, but how come he's your brother? How come you don't have the same name?" And at first it was I thought, "Oh, that's a good one. I don't know the answer to that." that was the first time, like, yeah.
When did you start questioning it the first time?
From school, from people to say, yeah.
Roughly what age?
So I would say from about 10, 11.
Okay, go on.
And then, so then I remember one day asking my mother, how come my name is Anthony?
And this is about 10, 11.
Well, it was about 10, 11, 12, yeah, about that sort of. Because at that time, you see, the thing is, you couldn't ask your mother's personal questions, because that's like, you're rude. You know, so you had to kind of be careful with sort of questions you ask or things that you said. And our household was quite strict, really, in certain things that you can say and don't say. So I remember saying to my mum, "How come my name is different from my brother's?" And she said, "Oh, well, it's because, you was born before me and your dad got married." And that was it. And I thought, well,
plausible,
exactly. So if mum says that, yeah, nothing wrong with that. Because her name was Anthony, I know that. So, yeah, that's fine. So I accepted that. And so then when people ask me, "How come you're..." So then I said, "Well, yeah, I was born before mum and dad got married." But then it got me thinking, but then how come my mum never changed my name?
And how old were you when you started thinking that?
About 14, 15.
Okay.
How come mum never changed my name so that my name is the same? So then
You feel a little bit left out?
I did feel left out.
Yeah.
Because I was the only one that had Anthony and all the others were George.
Yeah.
And it would have been, as far as I'm concerned, relatively easy enough to change your name.
Yeah.
So, but hey ho, you sort of got on with it. And then, so whenever any people say that, why is your name different? I thought, because I was born before mum and dad was married. Fine. So a couple of years went by and that was acceptable. But then even that, growing up, going back a little bit, I had a cousin who every now and then, as kids can be cruel sometimes, he'd always used to say to me that, because my dad was his uncle, this was Alan, Uncle Stephen is not your dad, or Dave, Uncle Stephen is not your dad. And I was like, what are you talking about? Of course he's my dad. No, Uncle Stephen's not your dad. And then that would kind of throw me a bit.
How old were you when they were saying that?
We were just kids then. We were like, I'd say from about... So Alan came here when I was, I think, about 8 or 9, I think, when we met. So I think from about Alan was telling me that from about, I had about 9, 10, no, 10, 11,
So around
12.
the same time you've then started
Yeah, round about, because everything happened round about that sort of time.
Yeah.
Alan and them, Dave always just said, and they were the only ones actually, like you said, but Stephen, Uncle Stephen, because I always remembered they were the only ones, because they always used to refer to him, Uncle Stephen is not your dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course he is. And that was upsetting, but then I couldn't go and say anything to my mum, because that'd be rude. I couldn't go and that'd be like disrespect.
Yeah.
So then, so again, so from that point, I think I'm starting to question why, you know. And then I remember when I was 19, I think that was the first time I went to Dominica by myself. 18 or 19, I went to Dominica by myself. Because before that, whenever I went with Mum. And then I remember on this particular occasion I went by myself, and I stayed with one of my Auntie Bernadette, who's passed away now. And I remember her saying to me, you know Stephen's not your dad, don't you? I was like, whoa, God, what do you mean Stephen's not my dad? Of course Stephen's my dad. Oh, no, Stephen's not your dad. And I was like, it was said so matter of fact. Whereas nowadays, if you had to talk to a child, you've got to be so careful. You don't just drop a bombshell like that on a child and just, a child that you're not going to see them again for God knows how long. Yeah. There's no one there to give them emotional support or anything like that. Nowadays, they will need counselling. Back in the day, like, you were just told, oh, no, he's not your dad, and just left to deal with it. So when my auntie said that, I was like, but then auntie, who is my dad? So I said, oh, you should speak to your mother. I'm like, well, but you're telling me he's not, so you tell me who is. So he said, well, he's an Antiguan. And so I'm like, that's all I was told.
That's all you were told.
That's all I'm told. He's an Antiguan. Oh, I think he's...
narrows it down.
Well, this is it. Well, because as far as I'm concerned, Mum told me that the only reason that Stephen is my dad, the only reason he's not my dad is because the only reason we don't have the same name is because I was married. She's never said to me Stephen's not my dad. And to be fair, I was never treated badly by Stephen to make me believe that he's not my dad.
So it's an hardship.
No, he never treated me any differently to say like, oh yes, he treated the others better than he did me. No, he didn't. So then when my auntie said that to me, Stephen, so then I questioned. She said, oh, you should speak to your mum. And she said, but your dad's an Antigua. And I think at one point she even said he might be the Prime Minister. And I'm thinking, what? There was like, it's a case of like, let's throw names, let's throw this. And I'm like, how am I supposed to feel? This is what I'm saying of going back to where I didn't know who I was. It's like, so after my auntie tells me this, I come back to England now, and I'm thinking, I might have like brothers and sisters out there that I don't even know. My dad might be, so Stephen's not. And he was like, and I couldn't talk to my mum about it, not at first.
So when you got back to England, you didn't say anything?
I couldn't. I had to kind of build up the courage. So how do I go to my mother and say to my mother, I understand that Stephen's not my dad? How... you got to understand, in those days, you don't speak to your mother like that. You don't come to your mother and ask questions like that. Yeah. Where's people say nowadays, oh, me and my mum are friends, where we go... No, that does not happen. I'm your mother and that's it, So it took me a lot... I can't remember how long it took me before I was even able to raise the subject of...
How long roughly?
Oh, gosh... Do you know what? It could have been as long as a year, maybe.
A year? So you've gone from Dominica back to England and held this in for a year? Because
I didn't have the courage to approach. How do I approach her?
Did you tell anyone?
I might have spoken to my two best friends. They would have known, and that's it. That's it.
How did you feel for that whole year?
A lot of the time, I put it out of my mind. I must admit, really? I did. I had to put it out of my mind because it's like I feel, am I being disrespectful? Am I being ungrateful? Because look, this person who's my dad, Stephen, he's raised me, he's fed me, he's done everything. Now for me to turn around and say something like that, it's almost like as if I'm now disrespecting the fact that he. Do you understand? And that's how it would be seen.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's a case of I had to try to find the right time or moment or courage to mention to my mother, because it's almost like me disrespecting my mother, almost. You know. So it took a while before I could raise the subject, and I remember one. I don't know how it came up. No, I can't remember what made me do it, but I remember this one particular Saturday. I know it was a Saturday. My mother was in the bathroom because when we was living in Dane Road, the bathroom was downstairs, like almost in line with the front door. My mother was in the bathroom. She was washing clothes, and I don't know how or what made me decide that that's it, I'm going to ask her. So I said to her, Mum, when I went to Dominica, someone said, I didn't want to blame anybody, I didn't want to point the finger, I didn't want to say Auntie Bernadette said. I just said, someone said that Dad is not my dad. Who is my dad? And I was waiting for her to shout at me or something. And she just carried on quite sort of, matter of fact, sort of washing her clothes and, oh yeah, your dad is an Antiguan. And that was it.
This is the first time she's ever told you that.
And I'm thinking, hold on a minute, but up until now, because by the time I'm 19, 20, something like that, you're not just blasé, oh yeah, your dad's an Antiguan. At that point, 1,000,001 questions are going through my head. But it's like, how do I say, but Mum, why did you tell me all this time or made me believe all this time that Stephen's my dad? And why didn't you tell me who my dad is? And where is my dad? And who is he? And I had all these questions. But the way she was, I didn't feel I could ask her anymore. So I said, oh, so he's Antiguan. Yes, he's Antiguan. And then it was like, okay. And then she said to me, quite blasé, oh yeah, he was a yard boy, I'm thinking, what does that mean? What does that mean even? And that was it, end of story. She's finished with me, she's washing her clothes, and that's it. Left me standing there, and that was it. And at that point, I'm just totally wrecked with, okay. So I think at that time, I can't remember if I spoke to Leslie at that time, because me and Leslie was quite close, and I would have spoken to Les. Mervyn would have been younger, my baby brother. I was like his mother. Esmond was not around. Esmond might have been in the Falklands at that time. Dates I'm not really good at, but I know Esmond wasn't at home a lot of the time because he was in the Falklands. And so then for a long time, again, good couple of years, my father was just a yard boy, and that was it.
Did you
from Antigua.